It's been a long time since I've talked about Ghost Recon here on the channel. I think it's been over a year, and a lot of that is because there hasn't been much to talk about recently until now. The last Ghost Recon game was Breakpoint that was released in 2019, already 5 years ago. And then there was the whole Frontlines fiasco, the first-person battle royale Ghost Recon game that had so much negative backlash that they outright scrapped it before it launched. And since, it's been pretty quiet. But we at least knew Ubisoft wasn't abandoning Ghost Recon. I know that was a worry after Breakpoint's poor launch and what happened with Frontlines. We heard last year that there was another Ghost Recon game in development, expected sometime in 2025, and a few days ago we got new details and information about this game, courtesy of Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming. I say it a lot, but he's a really reliable source, especially when it comes to Ubisoft projects. He's been the one coming out with all the latest Assassin's Creed leaks as well, so while this still isn't official, there's very strong reason to believe this report is accurate. This next Ghost Recon game is going to be very critical for the IP as a whole. Wildlands was a huge success when it released in 2017. It sold over 10 million copies and was actually one of the best-selling games from Ubisoft as a whole, which, considering the Ghost Recon franchise isn't as big as, say, Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, that's a pretty massive accomplishment. But Breakpoint came out, angered a lot of people, and had a very poor launch, but credit to Ubisoft Paris, they listened to community feedback, continued updating the game and supporting it for years after launch, and I felt this way for a while now, but Breakpoint, to me, turned into a genuinely good game. It had quite the comeback, but then Frontlines kinda came in and soured everything, so I think they're really taking their time to sort of step back and make sure this next Ghost Recon game is a success, because it really needs to be. Which is why we're 5 years removed from Breakpoint and still haven't gotten a new entry in the series. But according to Insider Gaming, the Ghost Recon game currently in development is named Project Over, which will be a game set in the fictional Naaman War and will be released in either 2025 or 2026. But most interestingly, the game is going to be a first-person, squad-based tactical shooter, going away from the third-person perspective the series has been using for quite a while now. In fact, this series actually started out as a first-person shooter. The original game was entirely in the first-person perspective, so it seems like Ghost Recon is going back to its roots a bit here, as a first-person milsim-like experience, which I think some people may be a bit apprehensive about, because I know a lot of people prefer third-person games, but me and a lot of others are actually very excited by this. It feels like this game is almost going to serve as a reboot to the series, with it coming out almost a decade after Breakpoint, and from the sounds of it being a very different type of game, which, to be honest, I think is what Ghost Recon needs right now. And what better way to effectively reboot the series than going back to the roots as a tactical squad-based first-person shooter. Personally, what I think makes Ghost Recon so appealing is the tactical and realism aspect. So I think leaning more into that element instead of going the more arcadey shooter route, which they initially tried to do with Breakpoint, with looter shooter elements, like different rarities, gear scores, stuff like that, which completely backfired obviously. So going the more tactical, realistic milsim route seems like the right decision, at least to me. Wildlands, in a sense, was kind of a reboot for Ghost Recon as well, transplanting the series into the open world genre, which I think worked very well, all things considered, but it still became a little more arcadey when compared to the older Ghost Recon games. But Ubisoft Paris claimed to have learned their lesson with Breakpoint and seem to have a better understanding of what their fanbase wants, given all the updates they added to that game. And from the sounds of this leak, it seems like they may be on the right track. I'm very happy to hear that the game will be squad-based as well. That's such a key component to so many of these games, and it was really disappointing when Breakpoint didn't allow for AI squad mates on launch. Thankfully, they added that through an update later on. The report also says it'll be taking inspiration from other big military first-person shooters like Modern Warfare, Battlefield, Squad, Ready or Not. The plot, as I mentioned, will revolve around the fictional Naaman War that will be taking place in a southeastern country where hundreds of thousands of people have died from war crimes. and your Squad of Ghosts mission is to infiltrate, carry out secret missions, and locate a traitor. There's also apparently going to be some dark and possibly controversial missions. The report alludes to similar types of missions from the Modern Warfare games. I'm sure you know which ones I'm talking about. One example they gave is your squad nearly taking out a man who's holding a baby because they initially thought he was holding a bomb. Okay, that's interesting. And as expected, the graphics are described as a notable improvement over both Wildlands and Breakpoint. It'll be a PS5, Xbox Series X title, of course, so that's to be expected, and once again, the visual style was compared to Ready or Not. So all in all, I think this sounds really cool. I think Ghost Recon could definitely do with a refresh, and this could be the game a lot of old die-hard fans have been waiting for. Some people may not be ecstatic about it being first person, but I think that's exciting. Hopefully it's a very immersive, tactical game like this makes it out to be. Let me know though, what do you guys think about this news? Is this a game you would play and are looking forward to? Again, it definitely sounds like a bit of a return to form for Ghost Recon, similar to how Mirage was for Assassin's Creed last year, so that's very intriguing. I've made videos here on Future Soldier, Wildlands, and Breakpoint. I do have a few of the older games, including the original one. Hopefully I can make videos on those sometime if you guys are interested in seeing that. But as always, if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. A special thank you to my members for supporting me, and other than that, thanks for stopping by everybody, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day.